So we got the pickguard template really close. This is cardstock, and so I'm going to use this as my template. Really the key takeaways is the area around the bridge, this area, the spacing between the perimeter of the guitar and where the pickguard will actually sit. This curve is a nightmare, and so I'm going to end up final shaping it on the spindle sander. And this curve needs to be really tight because it's going to just sit up against the fretboard right there. We're not going to use copper, we're going to go with this. This looks really, really neat against that blue. And this piece is just big enough to get a Tele pickguard out of. So it's going to look awesome. It really looks neat. So what I've done is I've thinned a piece of maple to, I don't know, maybe an eighth, maybe 3/16. And I'm going to trace this out, use the bottom as one of my straight edges, cut this out oversized, and then bring it back periodically to the guitar just to make sure that the height is going to be okay. After, I haven't even done this yet, but now that I'm looking at it, yeah, that's good height. See, I probably should get it a little bit thinner. I don't really trust my thickness planer to thin this out, and I don't have any other way to do it besides using this thickness sander I have, but it doesn't really work that well. I think this will be fine. We got about an 1/8 inch clearance. Pickup is going to sit flush with this then. The strings will sit about, let's just see. Yeah, so if we're checking out the gap there, that P90, the benefit of this is the P90, the way they're installed, is they're actually going to get installed into the body of the guitar. P90, I'll route, a space for it to sit in, and then it'll get bolted into the guitar. This pickguard can be taken off without removing the strings, because a Tele, the bridge pickup is in the bridge, the controls are mounted in the control, and typically you've got a lipstick pickup here which is in the pickguard. But since we're not doing that, we're doing a P90. I could make a couple of these and just you could attach them with magnets and just change your pickguard out. It's a lot of work. I'm not going to do that. But the height shouldn't be an issue because it's just that P90. And that P90 is going to sit a little proud of this at the height that it's at. So I'm not too worried about it. I think that'll actually be perfect. You don't want your P90s to stick out so much. So I'm going to get to tracing this out, and we might have a pickguard today. Now I've got this thing roughly cut. I'm going to take it over to my spindle sander and do the stuff that I know is really close to this template. So this perimeter line up to about here, this, and then I'm going to bring it over, fine tune the neck. I'll probably line this up and lift the neck up and set it down and get a really crisp line right there. And then these I'll do, I'll reattach the bridge, and we'll kind of go in and make sure that these contours look good. Shouldn't be very long. Getting a little bit closer. I'm not in love with this curve right now. Probably going to go back to the drawing board and try to, I don't know. I need to just look at it. Everything else seems to be coming along pretty good. I've got this set. I need to cut these out a little better. Once I'm done with the shape, I need to decide if I'm going to put this first and then throw it on my router table to give it a bevel, or if I want to give it a bevel first and then put the pickguard on. And I might need to clear coat this before I put the pickguard on so that it's got a real smooth surface to adhere to. Right now I'm just setting it up, making sure that it's all, that all these gaps disappear. It looks good. It should be neat, contrast, to have that piece of maple and then blue body. So I'm happy with it. So I'm gonna keep cleaning up this right here. It's a lot harder than I thought to get this curve just right so that it fits right on there. But it looks great. So it's pretty clean now. I need to go look up online what sort of surface this stuff. It's got an adhesive on the back. I don't want to stick it on there if it needs to be stuck to something smooth. It's going to be really pretty. So I just routed the edges of this pickguard. It's basically, this is why I hate routers. You get these burn marks, and I don't know, maybe there's a way to avoid them, but so you have to sand them all out, and they just are really hard to get rid of. But I'm pleased with it. It's going to look so nice when we put the material on top of it. But right now I got to clean up these edges and then start to cut out where our P90 is going to go. I ran some, I put it in place earlier, figured out where the string path was, and then set the P90. So the 24th fret, if this was a 24 fret guitar, is this line right here. And so on, say, like a PRS that has a P90 or a Les Paul, any of those set neck guitars, the neck pickup will usually sit right shy, or south of the 24th fret. But I'm going to kick it a little this way, and it'll give a lot more fat low end. So these two pickups, and when you combine them in the middle channel, is going to be really awesome. But I'm excited to cut this thing out. First thing I need to do is clean these up. So then I can move to cutting this out. Then we'll put the pickguard material on top of it, cut around the edges, and then clean it up with a scraper the same way we would clean binding, the plastic binding. So here's a spot that's sanded and it's nice and pretty. Not any of that black crap. So I'll sand it with like 150 grit, and then I need to decide if I'm going to put clear coat on this before I put the adhesive backed, plastic to cap this so it's going to be like a turtleoid, or if I can just, I did a piece earlier just to make sure it was going to work. I can't hear this. So the turtleoid stuck to that really well. I don't know if I'm going to do a clear coat first, because this is going to need a clear coat anyway, and so I don't think this would look good with clear coat on top of it. I want to keep the plastic. So I've gotten to the point where the pickguard is shaped. I've put a contour around it. I've actually put in the holes, through the pickguard into the body. We're going to cover it with this. And like I mentioned earlier, I tested on a piece, and it's just way easier to cut it and get it pretty, put this on top, and then we'll clean it. So I need to set the holes for the control plate, the bridge is set, the pickguard is set. I need to cut out our P90 slot. And so here's our P90 cover. It's going to sit right there. I've used the Purple Heart in the fretboard to draw a straight line to get the string path for this neck pickup, and it runs right here. And so that's where the 24th fret would be if this was a 24th fret guitar. So this neck pickup is going to sit just a little bit towards the headstock. Should give it some pretty beefy response, particularly because this is a P90 and they're extra growly. And let me make sure. Yeah, so it needs to come over. 2 mil. cut this out with my drill press first. I'll use a bit to hog out the majority of this, and then I'm going to fine tune it with some files and rasps. So I'll take this guy off, cut out some of these holes, and then clean it up. It's going to be really neat. After we do that, I'm going to use the hole that I've created in the pickguard, and I'm going to use the hole that's already in our bridge that I've traced out to cut into the body. This P90 is going to sit really deep because of how shallow the fretboard is to the body. And so string height on this guy is going to be something like 5 millimeters of play under here, and so this P90 is actually going to sit in the pickguard. It's going to look like a lot of the old 59 Les Pauls that first had these so-far pickups. They were like flush with the body, and I thought that was such a cool look, and so that's actually what we're going to do here. I didn't intend on it to come out like that, but it is, which is pretty cool. So when we get to that, I'm going to cut these out, and then we'll use some hand tools and drill press and put some holes in this body, and then connect all of the chambers. At that point, we really can get, I mean, it's about done. I need to cut out these machine head holes, which I'll get to today, just a lot of drill press stuff. But this is really important, so I'm going to focus on that right now and give it my attention. So right now I'm just using a rasp in my vise and bringing these contours down to those lines that I drew. And then we'll start fitting the P90. Once I know that the P90's fit, I'm going to go over this again with some sandpaper, make sure it's pretty, spray it with clear coat, let the clear coat dry, and then we're going to bond the new, the top to it, that turtleoid. And then we'll cut the turtleoid with a scraper or a razor blade to these shapes. It'll come to there. And then I'll put some recesses in through these holes so that the screws fit flush. And then that'll be done. And we can get on to carving out, the pockets for the pickups and stuff in the body. We've got our P90 in place, which is nice. Nice little play in there. That's what I like. Just tight enough. So let's go put this guy on here and see what she looks like. So it'll sit like that. Control goes right there. So now what I'm going to do is bolt on the pickguard and trace out this piece. And then we're going to start cutting into the body. And we're getting real close to being done. But I'd like to put the pickguard material on top of this today. We can start moving into final sanding and then staining. I'm really excited to see how blue this thing is. Alright, so I got the pickguard done. Let's pull this little P90 out of there. I've still got the plastic wrap on it to keep it from, in mint condition. But this maple is going to stand out really nice against the blue. This pickguard's pretty cool. Fits great. So we can start moving on to other stuff now. Let's see. It's going to fit just like nice tight fit. It's going to look really nice flush with the top. But everything fits good. It's pretty high, but the string path, again, you'll have a couple of millimeters. It's just going to be more like a Les Paul than like a Fender with, a lot of relief. But it should play great. I'm real excited to get this thing done because it looks freaking awesome so far.